Welcome to Sports Connection. I'm Darrin Joins, Williamson County Schools Athletic Director. I'm here with the well-dressed Tate Mathews. And Tate, that's actually nice that you're dressed up, but it's also because of the loss of a legend, right?
Loss of a legend, Coach Bobby Gentry. Coached a lot of places through the years, obviously Jimmy Gentry's brother. And both of those Gentry brothers, I think most people know Jimmy Gentry was at the flagship, Franklin. But what we learned, really I learned from you, and I played for Coach Bobby a couple years ago when you were starting the MTIT. You got all the records together, and Coach Bobby was actually the head basketball coach at Franklin. Do you remember the dates?
I couldn't tell you the years, but a long time ago.
It was before you and I were born.
Yes.
But Coach Bobby Gentry, longtime coach in the mid-state, obviously Jimmy Gentry's brother, great math teacher, great coach, great man. So
passed away at what, 92?
92 years old, man. He was the real deal. He coached at Franklin, Battleground Academy, I think Hillsboro, Williams County, Hillsboro. And then obviously was at Brentwood Academy for a long time with his brother and Coach Flatt. But a great man. It'll be, I think a lot of times when you see how crowded your funeral is, that's when you really find out what you were thought of. It'll be packed today. Great man.
And
great
a life well lived. 92 years old. We should be that lucky, right?
Ah, man. I think if you were given that deal right now, you'd take it, right?
I'd take it.
Yeah. So
I'd take it.
He was a good one, man. He loved kids, like all you guys do, but he loved young people.
Tate, let's talk some hoops now. Boys basketball, girls basketball region is done. At the time of this taping, the girls basketball state draw has happened. The boys sub-state game is still to be played. So when we're back on the air, and by the way, I know our viewers want to know this, we'll be off next week because of spring break. So when we're back in 2 weeks, it'll be just a total recap.
Basketball will be done.
It'll be done, and we'll be in full swing, no pun intended, baseball,
I like how
soccer.
You did that.
Then we'll have track to talk about, all kinds of spring sports, 7 sports. But for now, basketball.
Basketball. A lot to talk about.
A lot to talk about. Hey, and before we do, Gateway Tire Players of the Week, Zoe Pillar, Trey Carlton. Congratulations to those athletes, and thank you again to Garth Bolden and what he does for recognizing those athletes. Let's start, because last week we were semifinals when we did our show. So we're going to back up a little bit in terms of the brackets. If we take a look at our girls region tournament brackets, we're going to talk semifinals first. Page 87, Hillsboro 52, and this is a pretty good Hillsboro team now that beat a full-strength Summit team 40-39. And then in the other side of the bracket, Brentwood 70, Cane Ridge 50. The thing that stood out to me going into the finals is how many points these teams are scoring. Pretty impressive.
Well, we talk about it every week. I think two things with when you're talking about Page and Brentwood. One, they both shoot the 3 ball so well. And then they both are really, I think people think maybe Page more transition than Brentwood, but they both get up and down the floor so fast, the pace they play with, and the pressure they apply to people on defense. So I think that with the 3 ball, like we talked about, I mean, it's changed the women's game. I mean, you didn't used to see 87 points, especially not in a region semifinal one. So
against a good team.
Against a good team, and then they had 80
against a not very good team.
But my guess is they probably also took the foot off the gas.
Well, at some level, I guess they did.
Correct.
But I think McGavick maybe was just so bad, you'd have had to put it in reverse to maybe
park.
All right, so let's talk about that championship game. Meeting number 4, which we predicted all year long, right? Yes. Page had won the district championship a week earlier. Now they're matched up again in the region championship. Winner getting to host that sub-state game, so very important. Brentwood comes out on top, a very low-scoring game, 49-38. And Coach Thrash and Brentwood, they go with an extended 2-3 zone in that game, which turned out to be the difference.
Yeah. And
that length.
The length
of Brentwood.
Right. And slowed Page down a little bit. I mean, you look at that. One, Brentwood's better, but 38 points compared to 87 and 80. And that's the thing, you hated to see either one of them lose because they're both great teams. But, I think Coach Thrash he can coach a little bit too. It's not that they're just
Great.
It's not that they are just great players and play hard for him. You know, he understands the game, and he's done that a couple times, man. So obviously they watched film, figured that would help them win, and it did.
Well, it's interesting in talking to Coach Thrash. I'll try to not to get in these guys' way because I know how it is, been there. But if I get a chance, I'll talk to the coaches before the game. But he's always got this thoughtful, hey, we looked at this, and we're going to try this tonight. So, yeah, to your point, he's doing a good job. It's not just bow ties and blazers and turtlenecks for him. The guy knows what he's doing, too. And he'll only get better. Third year as a head coach.
That's right.
And think about this. Region championship, lost in the sub-state. Region semis, and now, which we'll get to here in just a second, state tournament. So, and first region championship since 2013.
That's kind of hard to believe. And you're right, the thing that was so big, which we'll talk about as we got down, I think home court advantage is big anyways, and you kind of alluded to it, I think, but it was really big in this because you had a pretty good idea the loser was going to Lebanon, and I do think there was a big difference between Lebanon and Beach. Even though the records didn't maybe reflect it, Beach 29 wins, I think, but I'd much rather play Beach than Lebanon.
Well,
Is
and
that fair?
Yeah, it's fair. And you get the sense, too, the way Lebanon was trending.
Yeah.
You know, they were really playing well at the end of the season, really well.
Well, they had one district loss the first time they played Beach, and then they had won 13 in a row, and they had won 3 in a row against Beach. You're right, they were playing really well, really well.
And I know we're not talking about that team much, but Lebanon, I'm a fan of Corey Barrett, too. Good for him. You know, I know he had a tough loss
He's
of
had
his
a tough
dad.
month, yeah, man. Yeah.
So-
And you know what? I'll give him credit. I mean, it is what it is, right? Had the thing happen at Riverdale. Took his punishment, dealt with it, kind of sat out a year or two, got the Lebanon job, and he's built that thing back up quickly.
Got a second chance, and let's face it, he should have. I'm glad in life
Aren't
we
a
get
country of second chances.
That's right. I'm glad we get second chances,
That's right. That's right, for sure. And all these guys, Brock, Thrash, I don't know the lady at Beach, Barrett, the one thing, those three that I do know, they do it a little bit differently, but all three of those guys, their young ladies play hard for them.
No doubt. No doubt about it. Olivia Wilson, by the way, in that game in a losing cause, did get her 1,000th career point, so that was kind of a neat deal. I guess a consolation prize, so to speak. I know she'd have rather had a title. Also, congratulations. Amelia Osgood was the MVP of the region tournament. Very well deserved as well. Now, let's move to the sub-state games. Brentwood hosts Beach, 44-38. And I was at this particular game. A very slow pace. And I was surprised
Who
at this.
dictated that?
Beach did such a good job defensively.
All right.
And this surprised me a lot, actually, that Osgood and the Trucials really couldn't get free. I mean, they couldn't. Beach did a great job guarding them. Now, to Brentwood's credit, here's a name we hadn't really mentioned much, Chloe Wampler. She's open. She takes the shots. I think she ends up hitting 3 threes, a bunch of free throws at the end. And I talked to her dad after the game. He was just so proud. And you can relate to this for sure. He said, I played athletics at a pretty high level, but it's nothing like watching my own kids.
Oh, no.
He said, I've just been on the edge even watching this. He told me, and I saw this in the paper too, I guess Chloe knew they were going to leave her open. I mean, if you're going to guard those 3 that tight, she's going to be open some. Said she took 1,000 shots that day.
That's right. That's pretty cool, huh?
Didn't make her tired, apparently, because she knocked them down.
Took her two hours, I think she said, to do it.
Incredible.
I'm assuming on the gun.
Yes.
Right? Or the Dr. Dish.
Or the Dr. Dish, yes.
No, that's awesome. And ended up with 15 points. What was the final on that one?
44-38.
44-38. And one Trucial did get going. Emily had 15.
Right. Delaney didn't score.
Delaney didn't score, and Osgood had 7.
And fouled out.
And fouled out. That's right. The region MVP scores 7 points, fouls out with 4 minutes left.
2
minutes left, and they win.
And the district MVP didn't score.
The district MVP didn't score.
But Chloe steps up. It was a great atmosphere.
Isn't that cool?
It was really cool. 23-18 at the half, they were down.
And here's what I love about it, but you go back to the Page game, Delaney hit 6 threes.
Right.
Somebody always seems to step up with this team.
And with
and they were down at halftime, right?
23-18. They have a big third quarter. I think it was like a 13-3 run. They take a 31-26 lead. I sat with Coach Crabtree during the game, the beach football coach, and we were kind of talking about each team because he didn't know a ton about Brentwood. I didn't know a ton about Beach. But I told him when Osgood fouled out at 39-31, I was like,
this isn't good.
This is not over. I know it's an 8-point game, but Brentwood had a hard time even getting the ball in bounds. And you know, in those games too, especially first time for Coach Thrash to advance to the state tournament, you just got to survive it.
Yeah.
It's not about, well, we turned it over a few times and missed some shots. Doesn't matter. 44-38, they're in the glass house. That's all that matters. But it was making me nervous watching it, to be honest with you.
Oh, I bet. But isn't that the way it's supposed to be,
Yeah.
man? You want those games like that. And here's the thing I thought was really cool. This is what I love about this team. There's so many things I love about it. But they go 13 for 15 from the free throw line. Now, I can't remember. I think it was the district. I can't remember. One of those games, they went 18 for 20.
Right.
It's just cool to see that happen. They do all the things that you're supposed to do right. And it's cool to see them be rewarded for it. But 13 for 15, it's tough to do, man. And you can tell they spend a lot of hours in the gym. Obviously, Wampler, but she's not the only one.
When your fourth or fifth scoring option takes 1,000 shots a day of the game, it's probably a good sign for your program.
Pretty good culture.
Page 41, Lebanon 56. I'd been saying all year long, 3 girls teams in the glass house. We were 1 game away. No one'sville ends up making it. But as you mentioned before, tough night for Page at Lebanon, a very good Lebanon team. And, you know, in that game, I think they got power on the day of the game because they had that tornado last week.
That's right. Yeah.
So that community's been through a lot. Again, I'm pulling for Page. I want Page to win. When you consider what the community's been through, what Corey's been through as a coach, it's okay if you lose to them, in my opinion.
Yeah, for them, it's a really cool story. And I mean, they've won 30 games in AAA basketball. They're a really good team. And you're right, man. It was almost like all of Lebanon. I don't know what the turnout was, but I'd be surprised if it wasn't really good.
Great crowd, according to my sources. Yeah. John Wild was there at the game.
Oh, was he?
Jimmy Mack from Lebanon, he was there as well. So they were keeping me updated.
Do we know where he ate before?
Lebanon Social, maybe, downtown place.
Yeah. Isn't that where
Troy
the
Allen
50th birthday party was?
That's right. Page did lead 12-11 at the end of the first, but they just had a poor shooting night.
Yeah.
Coach Wild kept sending me those updates, 0 for whatever from 3 from different players. But poor shooting, and they got in foul trouble. They get behind at the half, 22-14. Going to the fourth quarter, they're down 17. They fight back. They cut it to 10, but it was just really too much. It wasn't meant to be for them on that night.
They've been so close 2 years in a row, man. But I do. I know it's easy to say this. They're getting closer and getting closer. Before Coach Brock and this group that he's got right now is done, they're going to make it.
Oh, they'll definitely. I think there's no doubt. You're talking about Cochran, sophomore, Wilkins, sophomore, who's probably their best player, Delaney No Jr. It'll hurt to lose Olivia Wilson.
Yes.
But they'll have somebody step up. They've got good freshmen, too. So I expect them to be right in here with a chance next year, too. 28-4 on the season, pretty nice year. 3 of the losses to Brentwood.
3 of the losses to Brentwood. That's
and
right.
The other loss to a team that's going to the state tournament. So what can you say?
That's pretty strong. That's how hard it is to get there.
It's difficult. It really is.
Been a lot of, we've talked about that. Dennis King till the end of his career, man. I mean,
that's right.
The man is, I don't think anybody would argue he's a legend, and he was that close to never going. I mean, it's tough to get there.
It was his second go-around.
Yep.
He quit coaching, and Coach Hatley took over. Coach King comes back. And what's so interesting about that, and you forget this, I know as coaches, I'd talk to some of my coaching buddies and go, dang, that'll be something if Coach King never makes a state tournament. Course, at the end, worked out okay for him.
Yes, it did, but you're right. I mean, that's how hard it is to make it.
Tough. You got to be lucky and good, both.
Get some breaks along the way. And
it's got to happen. All right, let's talk boys basketball. Again, we left off on the semis. So semifinal number 1, Summit really totally dominates Dixon, 66-53. Close game at the half, but a big third quarter by Summit, and they beat Dixon. They end up splitting for the year. Summit won the most important one, that region semi game, 66-53. Fast forward, Hillsboro, Brentwood, this game goes into overtime, which to me was a shocker. So if you back up and look, Hillsboro beats Franklin. We talked about this last week by 18 points. But we agreed, even though Hillsboro was the third seed, that was kind of the team you didn't want to get.
I thought so.
Brentwood plays without Evan Drennan, and I'm thinking this game could be over by the half. Not only is it not over, this thing goes to overtime. And Brentwood had a couple of guys play that, to be honest with you, I had to get my roster out and look and see who they were.
Yeah.
But they just did a great job, had a great game plan. And I thought the game would maybe be in the 40s or 50s for Brentwood to have a chance. They end up losing 70-66 in overtime, high-scoring game. So what do I know? They have the ball at the end of regulation, 63-62. I thought they might go for a last-second shot. They end up shooting a little bit earlier, hit 1 out of 2 free throws to tie it, then a great defensive effort. Game goes to overtime, but the overtime, well, I wouldn't say it was all Hillsboro, but it was really not totally in doubt. Jake Brock hits a 3 late in the game to cut it to 4. But great effort by Brentwood, great season, end up 22-9. On that particular night, they hit 14 threes. Great game.
Oh, they can shoot it, yeah, and the future's bright.
They'll be better next year.
They'll be better next year, and you know, great job by Coach Shirley. Kind of hard to believe, you know, a guy who's been to 2 state tournaments, but you know, I think you included. Some people think maybe this is the best job he's done since he's been there. Yeah, and I think you look at what Hillsboro did. We've talked about this. Coach Thweet's been there, and the reason I know this is Whitlock told us he's been at Ravenwood for 14 years. Well, Whitlock replaced
That's right.
Thweet.
That's right.
Actually, well, and
yes,
so
another story.
Yeah. Thweet's been there for 14 years, and I mean, he always has them. They're a scary tournament team, man, and they're a good mix of athletic and physical. But you beat Franklin, who was playing really well, hold one of the best scorers in the mid-state, maybe state, to 1 field goal. You beat Brentwood, and then you beat Summit. You're pretty dang good.
No doubt about it. Now we move on to the championship game. Again, both teams are going to qualify for the sub-state, which is 1 game away from the state tournament. Summit Hillsboro, another very good game. It was kind of a game of runs. Early in the game there, Hillsboro goes on a 10-0 run to take a 21-11 lead. Summit ends the half on a 9-0 run. Now it's 21-20 at the half, and then the second half was just back and forth. But this particular game, you would have loved this. It was like football on a basketball court. Not in a bad way. Tough, physical play. It was fun. It was fun to watch.
Yeah, yeah. And 2 tough teams, right? And I don't know how many of the Hillsboro guys in the past they have. I'd love to know how many of them are football guys. But that's always kind of been their
quarterback.
Well, there you go. That's always kind of been Hillsboro's recipe. They've always been a team that would have, you know, their football guys get there usually late because they're in the playoffs, sometimes deep in the playoffs. And then come about January, they start playing well. Tournament time, they're really tough. And obviously the Summit boys, they played up until the very last weekend. So, yeah, it's like watching a fight. You know what I'm saying? And I like those kind of games.
Hillsboro comes out on top 55-43. Big shot, Trey Carlton. I mean, you could almost write it down. When you need a big shot, Trey comes through. He shoots a tough, contested 3 to tie the game at 43 to send it to overtime. Coach Fay said in the paper, I don't know if I totally saw this, but I get it as a coach. You're trying to be critical of your team. He said he thought the team reacted to that like the game was over.
Yeah.
And then you go to that overtime, and Hillsboro outscores them 12-0.
Have you ever seen that?
No, not maybe, but nothing I can remember. Not in a game like that, especially. Yeah. But they scored a couple of buckets early, and in that game, being behind 4 or 5 with 2 or 3 minutes to go was going to seem like 10 or 15. A couple technical fouls called at the end, so it made the score maybe worse than it actually was. But I do think the difference is this. Hillsboro, not that Summit hadn't been there, because they have. You know, they made it all the way to the region semis last year. Now the region championship onto the sub-state. Hillsboro's got a few more seniors. Not a ton of seniors, but a few more. And Summit really doesn't have a lot of seniors competing for them. Here's another thing I thought was interesting. Both number 3 seeds.
Yeah.
So much for the ones and twos making it. That's how it goes sometimes.
Tournament basketball, man.
So now Hillsborough.
But I think probably the two toughest teams. It doesn't always work out that way, but definitely the two most physical.
Well, I knew they'd have a chance. We talked about Summit and Franklin, right? Being physical.
Yeah.
Hillsborough being physical. That physicality, let's face it. And it's funny because I never really sat in crowds. I've always been on the bench or standing on the side. Or it's funny to me how, there's a lot of yelling and screaming and complaining about officiating. For those of you out there that are watching, in the tournament, they're not going to call fouls. Save your breath.
That's right.
Quit yelling 3 seconds. That's not happening either.
I got a better idea.
Just
Go take a class. I'll provide it. Get you a striped jersey and a whistle and be a ref.
Yeah, it's a tough job. It's a tough job. I'll say this. I watched a lot of games and coached a few. I can't name many where I thought the refs were the difference.
It always balances out, man.
It's part of it.
Even when it's bad, it's usually equal opportunity bad. Don't you agree?
Yeah.
I mean, as you know, you not as much anymore, but spend a lot of time this time of year and at A game or the courts at 615. And yeah, there's some bad reffing, but it's usually bad on both sides.
And there's some bad playing too.
Oh.
There's a lot of bad in those games. How about Summit going to MJ? They got to go to Mount Juliet. And I'll say this, something that surprised me was this. Until 3 years ago, Mount Juliet, and that school, I don't know when it was built, but it's been around a while. They had never won a district championship.
Blew my mind.
Won 3 in a row. Yeah. They had never won a region championship till last week. That is going to be a tough test going on the road. But in my mind, in a lot of ways, Summit's playing with the house's money. I think the pressure's on Mount Juliet.
For sure. And they made it last year, didn't they? Didn't they make it, or 2 years ago?
2 years ago.
2 years ago they made it, yeah.
They beat Franklin in the sub-state at Franklin.
That's right.
Then last year they were kind of the favorites, and then Gallatin upsets them in the region semis, which ended up helping Franklin. That ended up being the sub-state opponent was Gallatin. Nothing against Gallatin.
I was at that game.
That wasn't
Mr. Glover had a nice game.
He did. He did. I think he double-digit outscored them at the half. He had a great game.
All right, great. So that was a perfect segue. I was going to ask you that. Nobody knows Mount Juliet like you do, or around here. You're going to see tough man-to-man defense. I equate this, not saying it can't be done, but I equate this one kind of like the Page Lebanon. I would much rather see Northeast than Mount Juliet. But you're going to have you're going to see tough man-to-man defense, and it's going to be as good of man-to-man as you've seen all year.
It'll be tough.
They got a Mr. Basketball finalist in Pruitt who's going to Lipscomb.
The Red Rocket, they call it.
The Red, and it is, yeah.
That dude can play.
He can play. I talked to an opposing coach who played him twice, beat him once, and lost to him once. His scouting report was let Pruitt get his, shut Clark and the rest of them down.
Then how'd that work out for him?
He won one, lost the other. Now it was in the regular season. So I ask you, what can Summit expect tonight?
Well, see, I don't think that's a bad play, honestly. People used to ask me that about Glover, and I would say, why do you waste your time putting your best defender on him? Because if that guy's one of your better scorers, he's going to be so tired, and Glover's probably going to score 30 anyway.
Yeah.
So I sort of get that thought of let him get his. Pruitt's a little bit different player. He'll take what the defense gives him, but if Summit,
he's a true point guard, right?
He can play now. He's committed to Lipscomb. He can score too. I think if Summit has a chance, it's got to be physical inside because they have an advantage size-wise inside. They do. Sure. Mount Juliet's a little smaller. They don't have that tough post that Troy Allen's used to having. They're more of a, for lack of a better description, kind of a pretty boy shooting team. But play tough defense. I'm not saying that.
You know what's funny? They're kind of what they used to call Wilco teams.
Yes.
You know?
They are.
Really?
They are.
And Summit's kind of what region was that? 9A or whatever?
9 AAA is the district.
District 9 AAA. That's kind of what they used to pride themselves on.
That's right. So it'll be interesting. I think it'll be a good game, though. Looking forward to it.
The gym will be packed.
It'll be packed. Get there early. Or go in a back door or something. Hopefully Troy Allen will leave us a door open. Yeah. All right, let's talk real quick because we're running out of time here. I did want to mention the Fairview boys. They did make it all the way to the semifinals, losing to Creekwood 70-52. They finish up 19-12. We talked about last week. Great job by Coach McCoy and the Fairview boys. Now, let's finish up with the Nolensville girls. Trending in the right direction we talked about. Now they have 17 straight wins, right? Semifinals in the region, they defeat Stewart County 65-44. And what do they do in the region championship? Oh, they beat Marshall County, who they had beaten by 1 2 weeks before. They had beaten by 13 1 week before. They win 68-33, 35-point win heading into that sub-state game against Westmoreland.
We talked about it. That was senior night. Throw that out the window. We had a lot going on. We hadn't been challenged in a while. And the Lady Knights put the smack down on when they saw them again.
And then they go on to the sub-state, which I thought this might be. And you know, sometimes I pick the games I attend based on if I think the other side maybe has a chance to keep playing. And really, full disclosure, I didn't go to the Nolensville games because I was pretty confident they were going to keep playing.
Yeah.
That game against Westmoreland was a little bit closer than expected, but I think it's that same thing that happened to Brentwood maybe. You get a little tight towards the end. They're up 29-18 going to the fourth, and they only win 35-31. So Westmoreland, who I think was outmatched by Nolensville, played them tough. They made it close towards the end, but all that matters is this. Nolensville did win 35-31.
Going to the state tournament.
First time ever, obviously.
First time.
I mean, the school's only been there, 3 or 4 years?
Yeah, that's pretty strong, man. And hey, Westmoreland won 29 games. And I noticed one of their wins when I was looking earlier in the year, it's not a region game. They have an Upperman win.
Which is a great win.
Well, they're there.
Great win.
Yeah, so Westmoreland's a really good team. Obviously, they wanted to keep it low scoring against Nolensville. They did a good job of it. But I like seeing that, and I know you do too. That's not, they're not used to winning games 35-31,
No.
but they found a way to do it. This team's tough, man.
They are.
Pillar had 13, Leftwich had, I think, 11. Coach Ladd's daughter, Cayman, keeps popping up. It's not just a three-headed monster.
No, they've got several.
I think Nolensville's got a chance
I
to
do
get there
too.
and win one. Maybe
So,
two.
Is this the year of the Knights? You look, soccer, runner-up. Volleyball, state champion.
State champs.
Football, semifinal. I mean,
Do you bring in,
Wow.
Ladd and Young are big buddies. Do you bring in Young and let him talk to the team on Thursday or on Wednesday before, showing off his bling a little bit? And by the way, have you seen it? You got to go see Coach Young's, the Nolensville Volleyball State ring.
I love it. Gigantic.
Looks like Robert Kraft and the Patriots.
Thank you, Josh Houston. Better be. We'll just say it is. All right, let's go to the state tournament draw here real quick. So then we'll finish up with this. So the AA draw, and we'll talk about this again when we're back on here in a couple of weeks. And I talked to Coach Wild about this. He's our resident girls basketball expert in the state. He likes the Nolensville draw. He thinks Melrose, who they drew in the first round, is a good draw. And then they're in the same bracket with Macon County and Maplewood, which are good teams. But he likes that first round draw. So to your point, they got a shot. You win that first game, then you never know. You got to get to the semis.
Well, if you win that first one, you're in the Final Four. Obviously, it's going to be against someone really good.
Thursday at 10 a.m., I got a feeling the Nolensville crowd's going to be bigger than Melrose.
It's going to be last one out, turn the lights off.
And Melrose, the lights are probably going to still be on.
Not so much.
Yeah. Yeah, not a problem.
It could be. It'll definitely be predominantly black, royal, gray.
It's going to be fun.
It will not be. I think aren't they maroon and gold?
No idea.
They're maroon.
They
and
won't
gold.
be there, so it won't matter.
But you would expect this coming out of this. And the thing about it, I try to look at their schedule, see any common opponents. None. It's all teams, right around there. But talking to Coach Ladd, they're athletic. They're going to pressure you on defense. A lot of man, a lot of trapping zone. If they can protect the ball and you can't let Melrose get hot. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I think they feel good about their chances.
In AAA, Brentwood starts off their run to a state championship, hopefully. They are the fourth and final AAA game. 2:45 on Wednesday. They take on Arlington. They're in the same bracket as Bradley Central Lebanon. Tough draw for Brentwood in terms of that's a pretty athletic team. And that game Saturday night showed me that if somebody's really able to pressure them, that it could be tough. So the good news is I think Beach did a good job of that. So that game maybe helps them going into that Arlington game that, hey, we got to do something maybe a little bit differently in terms of handling the ball against somebody that can really pressure us.
Hey, do you like Would you rather be the first game or the last game?
Last game.
Yeah, I think so too.
Although from our district, first is not bad because it's going to be a definite crowd advantage.
Yeah.
At 10 o'clock in the morning. But I think it's, in a way, kind of a shame. You make it to the state tournament, could be the first time, maybe only time you're going to make it, and you play at 10 in the morning.
That's tough.
That just, to me, that doesn't even feel right. But
Arlington, Brentwood, they did have a common opponent. It was Ainsworth. I don't know what you read into that, but they won 30 games. I think that's going to be a really good one, man.
I think it'll be a great matchup. Tate, appreciate you coming in as always. Enjoyed the time off. I don't know if spring break means much to you. I'm sure business is a little slower, spring break time. So 2 weeks from now, we'll be recapping the season. What a great basketball season it's been, and we'll be talking more about spring sports.
Can't wait. Hopefully we'll be talking about old Sparty going to the boys' glass house as well. But we definitely are going to be talking about 2 girls' teams. It's going to be fun.
Be neat to have 3 teams.
Yeah, man.
Thanks for joining us for Sports Connection. We'll see you next time.